Contrarian. This is my world. They came in, take a nosedive in sales. They put Apple to shame by introducing cheap, pocket-friendly, budget smartphones packed with everything people wanted. They rode in on the Android wave and changed the very dynamics of the smartphone industry. They are dethroning smartphone market leaders by the hour. They can no longer be termed the little rice from Asia. They are now responsible for a full-blown Chinese invasion. Xiaomi, Oppo, Xiaomi, Coolpad, OnePlus. Apart from the fact that all these brands are homegrown Chinese companies, another common factor that ties these smartphone makers together is that till about 3 or 4 years ago, no one wanted to buy these phones. Forgetting to even know their names, nobody knew them. No one trusted a phone made and shipped from the country of the Red Dragon. The phrase, a Chinese phone, in itself was looked down upon as a description of a cheap, tacky, plasticky device that would work for maybe 15 days and was usually illegally imported into our country. That has changed with a vengeance. Fast forward now to 2014. These brands are some of the strongest new contenders in becoming the top-selling smartphone brand in the world. So what led to this tectonic shift? The bigwigs like Samsung, Apple and HTC are feeling the tremors, but will they witness a full-blown earthquake? Can these made-in-China brands one day dominate the entire world's smartphone market?
As the prices of smartphones are going down and down, consumers in general are willing to experiment more and probably leave the security and safety of larger brands and try out these newer players who are entering this particular category. The consumers are now able to see the value that are being offered by these smaller, leaner organizations and are able to see through the huge premiums that were once commanded by the larger players that are offering in our category.
Everybody will make a comeback for sure, but I'm not sure whether these guys can actually make a comeback unless they change the strategy completely. Because of the fact that they really need to think the local piece over here. For them, I've worked in some of these brands before, and I know how they think. It's just the fact that, they think from a global point of view, it's not their fault. But sometimes in today's day and age, you really need to think local as well, and that makes a lot of difference.
Happy birthday, Dad.
The prowess of Chinese smartphone companies can only be attributed to smarter sales strategies.
Papa, ये फोन सिर्फ 4,099 रुपए में मिलता है. Only on Flipkart.com.
These brands have taken online retail by a storm. They've changed business models. They don't look at setting up retail shops. It's a very simple, straightforward way to success. No other big global smartphone brand has been able to successfully sell as many phones online as these brands. For instance, this year Xiaomi has already outsold Apple and Samsung in China with an astonishingly quick rise. Xiaomi is already becoming a name to reckon with in India. Lenovo has actually brought out Motorola, one of the most iconic mobile brands worldwide. And all of this has been possible thanks to fantastic products, world-class manufacturing, better retail strategies, and overpowering online sales.
The purchasing power parity of Indian consumers is increasing, and hence the kind of monies that they're willing to splurge or spend on mobile phones is increasing year on year. This is one development. Second, the prices of smartphones are also dipping, as I said, because of developments that are happening in the China ecosystem, and hence the prices of smartphones are reducing every day.
I think the key difference would be whether you have a local presence. So there would be brands which have local presence in India, they have offices in India, they have service network across India. Those brands obviously would be able to handle all these issues. But when you talk about brands which are coming from China, just tying up with one particular online partner and then trying to sell, they'll obviously have challenges of after-sales service. So I would suggest any new brand which comes into India, I think needs to set up their distribution and their service network very, very strong to be able to actually do justice to the pre and the post sales.
Now, selling phones online is a great strategy, seeing the rise in the netizen population, but are online sales enough to boost their status as world leaders in smartphones? These brands have definitely managed to capture the Asian market, but what about the Western world, where to some extent they're still obsessed with the Apples and Samsungs of the world. Thousands of people still queue up outside Apple stores whenever a new phone or tablet is announced. Samsung still manages to woo the Westerners with a new launch every few months. Will a brand from China with a tongue twister of a name ever enjoy such a loyal fan base? How long can it be before the smartphone bigwigs tap the budget phone market or the online market? And when they do, will these newly famed Chinese brands stand a chance at all?
I think it's a nimble-footedness. We listen to the consumer very, very carefully. We would like to develop things which are meant for them. So it's a cliche by saying you think globally, act locally, all that stuff. We actually do it. In fact, we go as local as to find out what's needed in the country.
Pressure from smartphone companies within India is already on. Indian brands have got into the Windows Phone market, now also testing the waters for launching only sold online sub-brands. Some of the biggest brands in the world are also trying to do the same. What these companies also have going for them is that they already have a very well-established brand value, while Chinese brands still struggle to create a trusted consumer base.
I think the kind of products that the Indian brands have launched, they have been able to pitch products with similar specs as compared to what the global brands are offering at a very competitive price. I think that's one. The other part obviously is the branding, that they have pitched their branding very, very strong. So the Indian customer does recognize the Indian brands as well now.
The day when Chinese smartphone makers will completely dominate the smartphone market across the world is not far away. But this will only and only happen if the dinosaurs of the industry don't chase down these Chinese fire-breathing dragons first. On the other side of the show, I have one such fire-spewing dragon himself, the India head for Gioni, a company that has set down an all-new business model in our country and has reaped some very big rewards. This man claims something huge, something so big that even I am a little shaken. What is that? Well, his claim is this: the top 3 mobile brands in the world will soon become the bottom 3 brands. That has got to be the most controversial statement we've had on The Contrarian in a long time. What does he have to say to justify that statement? Well, you're minutes away from finding out. Lots of huge changes in the mobile phone. The business model is changing. So the 3 areas that we thought were the pillars of how people bought and sold mobile phones is changing. What happens next?
See, Rajiv, what's happened is it's happened gradually. It's not sudden.
Really, we see it as something that came out of the blue.
Yeah, I mean, that's because you saw it late.
I am the Contrarian. This